astrologer with another episode. And this one is going to be a Spirit of Matter episode about the fixed stars and the zodiac on both sidereal and tropical perspective. Now, as all Spirit of Matter episodes, this one is not me giving you a teaching of something that I read somewhere. And if anybody refers to this type of connections that I talk about, I'd love to be educated. When I do these things, I do observation. I don't look out to the literature because I want to develop my own hypothesis before I check with others. So it may be that other people thought about this, and if I'm not mentioning them, it's because I don't know. So instead of scolding me, just tell me if you heard anybody that like talks about this, and I'd love to read about them. So I was looking at the list of main fixed stars, and my hypothesis was that on both sidereal and tropical, I can look at a certain zodiac sign and feel the connection between the main fixed star in there, um, so that the fixed star can either be a representation of like a culmination point, and therefore I will usually tend to pick the fixed stars that are around the end of the tropical zodiac, or sidereal, uh, or that the fixed star brings a sort of an antidote to the zodiac star, to the zodiac constellation. Okay, so there is a connection between the constellation and the fixed stars that are in the constellation. Now, if you think about it in terms of like planetary positions, it makes sense um, that a fixed position, like that something will be fixed in a star in a certain constellation, will display a part of the zodiac or be an antidote to certain things that the zodiac could deliver or yield that are not so benefic. I've never tested it. I'm just going to look at the zodiac. I just put out a given chart. Some of you might identify this chart. And if you do, then it means you've been watching very closely my channel. Um, but I don't look at the chart so much in as much as just look at having a chart, the zodiac in front of us so we can have a discussion. And let's see what I come up with. Let's see how much of it actually covers what we see. So beginning, well, for Aries, I have to admit that this planet Mira something is not something that I know, so I haven't worked on it, I don't know it. And neither is Mark that sits totally on my ascendant. I might touch it a little bit, but I don't know a lot about it, so I don't know. And of course, Fomalhaut will represent more of Pisces. Makes sense. But I'll actually begin with Taurus. So, tropical, okay, tropical Taurus, and that would be sidereal Aries. I'll speak of tropical Taurus and then sidereal Aries and see if it covers both. So, tropical Taurus, we have Algol on 26, 25 now it is, Algol. And the main fixed star that we associate with Taurus, even though there are a couple of them, as you can see, there was recently an eclipse on one of them that is Alnera. Alnera. I don't remember who spoke about this fixed star and the eclipse, but there was an eclipse on it. But I'm going to choose Algol for a second. Algol represents the myth of Medusa Gorgon and the myth of basically a woman that was raped and spoke up, and so her throat was slit, so to silence her, and her face, the rage in her face was actually used as talisman to protect from all things associated with the types of magic intervention that would um, violate a person's basically chi boundaries, basically life energy boundaries. On all, because it is the astral body, the physical body, the mental body, the soul body, blah, blah, blah. And so whatever could threaten these boundaries, and of course sexuality is the essence of sexual boundary violations is of course violating the boundary of the something that is very essential to the life energy of the person, and therefore um, uh, is, creates quite an effect. And so alcohol basically represents deflecting those things. If you think about return to sender magic, then if somebody sends all the things that could relate to the myth of alcohol to someone, and they use alcohol as protective magic, um, what they're sending back, okay, is immense. Um, it's not like any deflective, it's not like protecting from the evil eye, or it's like literally deflecting curses. There's another planet, there's another fixed star I'll touch on later, that's Procyon, that does something different with that. But Algol, for deflective magic, we would use only in those harshest of cases where we have to literally protect from the type of psychic attack that could that wants to violate chi boundaries, kundalini boundaries, sexual energy boundaries, and basically interfere with the constitution of a person. Um, and so it is used to prevent all levels of attack by deflecting them. And of course, given that this entity of Algol is so, has gone through so much and has a certain wisdom, then a person has to be willing to go through whether, either shadow work or let outrage or stand their ground, or people that have worked with alcohol report all kinds of experiences that vary greatly, but I guess it is according to what the person currently needs to basically heal or deflect certain energy. It is basically consisting of 3 planets that eclipse each other. I think it's 3 planets. No, 2 planets that eclipse each other, and then it's basically called the blinking eye. And if I will not deal with what it works best with right now, because I want to concentrate on that. And it is considered the most revered fixed star of the zodiac. Tropically, if you think about Taurus, ruled by Venus, Venus needs protection because Venus is alluring, is sensual, and therefore needs protection of the sexual energy from any entity, person, or whatnot that might desire to interfere with the boundaries, the sensual boundaries of the Venusian figure. And so Algol is like a talisman or an amulet or the protective magic for that archetype of Taurus that is of the body, but also of the senses and of being present in the body. And oh my gosh, I should put a trigger. Oh gosh, I should put a trigger. This is absolutely a trigger. Um, for effective CPTSD, sexual assault survivors, and so on and so forth. So please, if that is triggering to you and you've watched until now, please stop watching. I'd much rather have you healthy and happy than watching my channel and feeling unwell or risking your life. So being present in the body is something that um, is challenged by sexual boundary violation. Any astral, physical, psychological, and sexual boundary violation is a very wide term. Notice that I did not say rape, even though the story of Algol, of Medusa Gorgon, was rape. But actually anything that could affect this sexual energy and the sensual energy, the ability to be in the body. Okay, even stuff like bullying or psychological violence or whatnot, those also affect these things. People might not take into consideration because alcohol might be called in. You know, if a person is doing shamanic healing work, whatnot, and devotional work, and they might be called to, you know, to summon alcohol and to ask for her protection and then to return to sender. So uh, it's about deflecting anything that would threaten the whole existence or the yogi existence of the soul and the body as one in the larger sense. And so algol is very much important to have in the sign that represents the sensuality of and the pleasure of being in the body. Okay, what is like nothing is more the joy of being in the body than sensual Venusian Taurus. So, in this way, this fixed star is basically the protector. And then there is another thing: any planet, any being, anything that goes through Taurus um, reaches a certain point where if like they learn the rules of the house, they go through the school or the experiences that they go through in the house, they gain the benefits of the house, they find ways to assimilate or integrate the energy of Taurus. And if they have been doing wrong to what Taurus rules, then at 26, 25 now degrees Taurus, which is still the final decan, they reach the fixed star that is going to cleanse them of their sin for sure. It's like either they will change their ways before they move into the last degrees of Taurus and then to Gemini, tropical, um, or they're beheaded in either a literal or a symbolic form. So that won't go. For example, when we recently had Mars moving through Taurus tropically, then it was very difficult because this is the antidote, this is the antithesis to the place that where Mars is comfortable. But Mars had to make sure he will not mistreat anything Venusian badly, and he had to learn how to do the Venus thing. Because when you reach a goal, it's like no, that's not gonna go. Like you're either going to learn how to treat women well, or poof, you'll be beheaded. Um, so that is the story of Algol tropically. Sidereally, this is a planet that we will find actually in Aries. And then it gets a whole complete other meaning. And I spoke about Mars running through Taurus, but Aries is ruled by Mars, and the antidote to the impulsive, this is the impulsive action of Mars. It's not the well-educated scorpionic energy of Mars. It's actually the impulsive, initial, innovative. It's like I think that would be a good idea, and then I started acting on it. Okay, so the big thing going for it is actually doing something about it. If something needs to be changed, Mars in Aries will be acting for sure to make that change, hopefully in a good way. And the algo is like smack, smack. Like you gotta do it in a way that is benefic, also for the feminine. You gotta do your Martian thing, your yang thing, in a way that is benefic, or you beheaded. Either your initiation goes down, or you go down, or it's like no, it's like you're not gonna achieve what you're trying to achieve, um, because there is a guardian that makes sure, because Mars in its dark energy is needless penetration basically, and this is exactly the type of energy that could violate someone's sexual boundaries, and alcohol is an antidote to that. So this is the most obvious case, and now let's move on to the next sign. And of course, you know, it's quite obvious that anything that goes through Aries receives this drive, initiation, passion, trying new things, giving birth to new things, make a change, take action, and you got to make sure that you're not stepping on toes in a way that could risk lives. Otherwise, you get smack, smack. So Algol is not, it's the most revered, but it's not, she's absolutely not evil. She just makes sure that you're not going to do something that is going to hurt lives. And then she's like, if you're about to do it, she smacks, smack. If you go through all those, like she smacks, smack you back, so that you know, hey, you need to rethink how you're going to do that in a way that's actually benefic. That's like the higher purpose of all goal, basically. Okay. And sometimes that can be rage, but also this can be tremendous compassion. Because maybe to act right, what you need is tremendous compassion. You will receive tremendous compassion. Maybe you have to express your rage outwardly in a constructive manner or even an activist manner, in a way that your message will come across, and also that the energy will be taken out of the body, like healing, you know, healing yourself. Um, so, of course, I hope the message is clear about that. And so, supposedly, the most feared planet is just a guard to make sure that you won't do something that if you do that, and assuming that you're a human being with conscience and heart, you will have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to heal from that, to love yourself again, to change your perspective of yourself, and so on. And so it's like, you know, there's certain lines that crossing them can be tremendously destructive to a person, and then our goal is there to make sure that, like, by any means necessary, you're not going to cross that boundary. Gemini. So tropical Gemini. And here, of course, I chose to speak about Aldebaran. And Aldebaran, well, if I think about tropical Gemini, Aldebaran is the antidote to Gemini. Why do I say that? Gemini is the sign of many opinions, many passions, many desires. Ever try to get a Gemini to commit? It's not impossible. I know Geminis who are committed, but it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of trials and tribulations to try to understand how to meet a lot of the contradicting needs. And it is not Libra. Libra tries to balance things, so it has contradicting desires, but it also has the ability and desire to balance them. Gemini just faces contradicting desires and tries to do good if it's, you know, well positioned, But also it's like it can change its mind because it is interested in putting itself in the other person's shoes. It's the sign of two people, not two fishes, not two sides of the scale, two people. Okay, it's a person that is split. It's not split even. It's two people. I think about. Okay, I don't want to get into cultural appropriation stuff. Like, but the concept of two spirit is not one spirit split. It's two spirits in one body. So I'm not saying that two spirits are necessarily Gemini related, so on and so forth. I was just thinking of trying to explain the difference between what it's like to have two people without pathologizing it. It's like, oh, the person is split, they have dissociative. No, it is just two beings inside of one, and those two beings have different opinions, different desires, different perspectives of the world. And Gemini loves to be sociable, to play devil's advocate, to exchange ideas, but it can get superficial, not because it is superficial so much, but rather because it goes through the width of things rather than the length, the depth of things. Um, and therefore it can skim the surface. However, Aldebaran is Aldebaran's desirous nature is not I don't want to say split, but it's not dual. Aldebaran knows what it wants, it desires, is hungry, and it's gonna get it. Okay, and when you think about the Gemini and the indecisiveness that can come with this air sign, um, you can understand why having a fixed star that is desirous of winning something, not just enjoying the game. Geminis will enjoy the game. They will enjoy the technique of something, but the win is not as important as to play because they're sociable. Okay. Um, but Aldebaran wants to achieve. Aldebaran wants to make a choice and to win it, and also wants material gain. So in terms of tropical, if you think about an air sign exchanging ideas, then Aldebaran says we can exchange ideas, but we gotta make sure we do it on our land, in our house that we own, in this luxury car, in that and all that thing, and then you can exchange your ideas, but in a bubbly, party, and so on and so forth. I'm trying to keep my voice down because it's getting beyond the time. So Aldebaran is very much an antidote to indecisive Gemini, and is also very materialistic. Again, an antidote to an air sign. Tropically, Aldebaran is in Taurus. Sidereally, Aldebaran is actually in Taurus. And there, Aldebaran actually expresses a facet of the Taurian. Taurian is ruled by Venus, and this is something that people often don't connect to because Taurian is a yin fixed earth sign. And Aldebaran wants material luxury. To win a lot of material luxury. And now you say, oh, Venus in Taurus, of course it wants luxury, it wants this, it wants... Venus in Taurus is the feminine. It's not about, white supremacy, having, the stereotype of the white male that writes in the right hand, yeah? That desires to control the world. It's the woman that has this luxury. It's the woman that has her land. And, and thus, this very Martian planet is an antidote to the diplomatic nature of Venus. Venus wins things over by diplomacy. Aldebaran has no problem to be a fighter and to win. He is very Martian. And so there we have a fixed star that, even if we read it tropically or sidereally, is a sort of an antidote, a healer, almost like a little talisman that the zodiac sign carries throughout the years. Now let's go to Cancer. And Cancer is very interesting because I was wondering both about Procyon and Sirius, and I think we cannot talk about Cancer without talking about Sirius. So I'll talk about both of them. First of all, Sirius. So tropically, Sirius is in Cancer, and Cancer in itself is about belonging to your tribe. As a person with a natal moon, as you can see here, oh, I gave it out. But cookie for you if you're watching now, subscribe, like, share, and so on. I remembered to say that. Woohoo! Anyhow, as a person with the moon on Sirius natally, I can say that the sense of belonging with Sirius, and I know the moon here also in conjunct Uranus, and that has an effect, but the sense of belonging requires a distance. With Sirius, a person's sense of, with Sirius, a person is like, they came from Sirius, they're like an alien everywhere they are. But they feel at home being an alien. Okay? They bring their weird. And while Cancer is so attached to the tribe, to the known, to the familiar, religion, culture, tradition, family habits, and is so affected by them, for better or for worse. Sirius is bringing this antidote of actually feeling a bit alienated. What happens when you feel a bit alienated? Then you look with critical eyes on your very traditions, on the things that affected the inner psychological and emotional structure of you. You're reflective on that. And you can look with a critical eye at your family, at your tribe, at your community. And this is exactly what Cancer needs to balance its very biased nature. So this is for Sirius. And then we have Procyon. Now, Cancer is very intuitive. It's very sensitive. It's also very vulnerable. It's a water sign. Okay? And it is not exactly the sign of deflecting things, because because it doesn't really feel the difference. Although it's not Pisces, if you deflect what the person comes to throw on you, you're just throwing it back on them, but you're going to feel by merit of your empathy with them, being water, they are part of you. It's like if they hurt you, if you hurt them, for you it's almost the same, or maybe even the same. Okay? You definitely don't want to deflect something. So the Cancer can be very empathetic. It doesn't mean that they're not hurtful. Sometimes they can be very mean, um, simply because of the symbiosis state. So that's the dual nature of the water signs in general. Procyon, it means it's a planet where if something comes to send something to you, if somebody is, let's say, jealous, so Procyon is going to sweeten the whatever is being deflected. Somebody tries to send psychic attack, maybe even unconsciously. Procyon is going to sweeten the energy. So if somebody comes to send a sting, then Procyon will make it honey. So it wouldn't be stingy. And so it dissolves instead of deflecting. And so you take a lot of like the wisdom of the martial art. You take the energy of the other and then you do your alchemy with it, and then you put the excess energy back to the earth. And with Procyon, you just almost like charming the opponent, so that you take the essence of the malefic energy and you just alchemize it with sugar. You make it sweet. Um, so it's good to sweeten relationships. It's also good, for example, for internal relationships, because if this is a part of your tribe or a part of your family, then you might not want to start a deflecting battle. And the water signs tend to do that. The water signs take the shape of whatever they are in. And so they can be very liquid in relationships, and then they can take on a certain shapes and certain forms that are not benefic to them and to the people around them. But if they use Procyon, then if something comes at you that gives you a shape of something that is not benefic, you can sweeten, you can transform the shape rather than deflecting or taking that malefic shape and therefore reflecting, not deflecting but reflecting to the other person, um, uh, which is what you actually do not desire to do, but this would be your tendency. So while you cognitively know that it's not the best thing to do, psychologically, emotionally, there is a certain nature to these emotions, and Procyon is a lot better to use when you want to sweeten someone. It's a loved one. They're not genuinely just like, it's someone that loves you, that cares about you. It's a part of your tribe. But we're human beings, and so you sweeten that. That's on the tropical. Now let's take all that and go into the sidereal. And here we are in Gemini land. So Sirius will be Gemini. I'm not positive Procyon would still be Gemini. Um, on sidereal, maybe I can check that here. Is there a way to check the sidereal here? This traditional system. Oh, let's try sidereal, and then we can have it's a lot of trying to think what is Ravati Puka. I'm trying to go by the Krasi one. I think it's no, I don't know. It's all Vedic. So yeah, that's not really telling me anything if I don't know how to work with it. So yeah, just trying to actually go to the sidereal. Let's just try this one. What would Procyon be? Procyon, no. Procyon would still be in Cancer. Yeah. But Algol would still be in Taurus. I'm not sure about this, but let's try just another one for the sake of trying. No, Algol would still be in Taurus. Okay. That's interesting. It was put her in the first decan of Taurus, but I'm not going to get all the way to that. I was expecting to see her somewhere else. Aldebaran would be in Taurus. Sirius would be in Gemini. So let's talk about Sirius in Sidereal Gemini. So Sirius is the planet of feeling at home with being an alien. And it is quite fit with Gemini, all in all. I think it goes very well with the concept of trying on different opinions, looking around, being social, checking, being like devil advocates of things. And the only thing I can think of is that it might unify diversity within Gemini, but I'm not sure about it. Okay, so I'm not going to force the data on it. I'm just like, it just seems naturally flowing with Gemini. It doesn't seem to be like an antidote to anything, but more reflective of something. And so we get to Leo. I will go back to tropical. I will go back to tropical. So, tropical Leo, we still have Regulus on 29th degree of Leo. I heard some people say 0 degree Virgo. I don't know, maybe it's difference in the time. But I think Regulus is the one for Leo, both sidereally and tropically. And I know we have the three there, and I don't know them, so I'm not going to talk about what I don't know. But I think when you think about the fixed star and Leo, you think immediately Regulus. And Regulus indeed is the star of the royals. And you know, with Leo being ruled by the sun, we know that the sun also is also involved in eclipses, and solar eclipses are bad omens for people in royal positions. So that is something that we know. Heads of countries, heads of states, any sort of solar figures. Also, by the way, prominent performers, people of the stage, that turn to the hearts of people. And it can also be certain politicians that turn to the hearts of people. And so Regulus brings fame and basically brings about the shine of Leo. It sort of like raises a person to a noble position, to a well-known position in society. Here it is not, I think it's not an antidote to anything. It just both sidereally and tropically reflects the house that it's in. The house, the house. I don't mean as in houses, but as in um, thinking about a zodiac. Okay, I will not use houses because that's confusing. The zodiac sign Leo. So the constellation, if it's sidereal, but the tropical space of Leo, just the time frame where where it belongs to the Leo. Um, I don't think a lot needs to be said about this. Um, Virgo, again, not going to talk about what I don't know. I do want to talk about Spica. Spica for tropical Libra is like the point of eloquence that just accentuates um, a high expression and the ability to deliver a message that is relevant for an air sign Venusian. Okay, if Earth sign Venusian needs to protect its ability to be for it to be pleasurable to be in the body and to be sensual, to be safe sensually and sexually, then Venus Libra needs to reflect its message clearly, seeing the beauty in and harmony in the voice as in the intellectual voice. Not only intellectual, um, but definitely the voice spreading a message. And so Spica is about eloquence. Lucky, I think it's considered the most lucky star, about being able to express your voice and be eloquent and have your message well received. Obviously necessary, obviously, a part of what Libra it tries to do in the world and deliver the message of harmony, balance, diplomacy, and equity. Now, if we turn to Sidereal, and let's say I think it will be in Virgo. No. Okay, this one puts it in 1 degree Libra, but I am having thoughts. This one puts it in 3 degree Libra. I am pretty sure I will find, I don't know if it's the True Ravati one. No, I'm pretty sure I will find that, because I think that we have sidereal systems where this is in Virgo. So let's just go over them. Yes, we do. We do have, this one is Sidereal Lahiri, and it does put it at 29 degrees Virgo. So for the sidereal systems that do put Spica in Virgo, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is about communication, trade, the message, delivering a message, be. So, however, Virgo is also a sign of frequency and discernment, and oh my God, criticism. So, while Virgo desires to refine things, and it's like, oh, it's just one stage in front, like the next stage is Libra, is to refine and balance. But Virgo is more about taking things apart and refining each one, and then Libra is balancing them together. We need both, but when you take things apart in your speech, one of the things you could take apart is the person's soul, psychology, and psyche. And therefore, Spica is an antidote to the tendency, it's not to the tendency to dissect things, but it's an antidote to the way the message that Virgo has to deliver being received in the world. If you say something in a way that is eloquent, for example, you could say, on a more psychological, let's say somebody has the Pluto there, a more psychological, it's like you need to do inner child work. Okay? Or you need to reparent your inner child. It is a lot better way than to say, you're a narcissistic person who doesn't see the other and only think about yourself and only me, concentrated. You really need to change that. That's really, like, that's the Virgo thing. An eloquent way to say the same thing would be, there may be inner child work and reparenting the inner child that you need to do to feel better. Okay, something like that. Um, and so it is still informative. It is still telling you what are the particular practices, and Virgo will go into detail to what you practically need to do to take the inner child, do the work, take the parent, do the work, and then in Libra you will reparent the inner child or something like that, to balance the two parts of the personality or whatnot. Um, so speaker will help to deliver the message in a way that doesn't tear the person apart, but actually allows for them to do the work that Virgo delivers, the Virgo wants them to do, so that they can return to balance and can return to harmony, not from a place of self-judgment or whatnot, or something that Virgo would simply find informative, but the other people have feelings. So Spica is an antidote to that. Now, let's go back to tropical. And tropically, Unuk. I don't know what is Unuk. And I don't know any of these planets too deeply. Although there's a lot of them, I know none of them. Why don't we speak about fixed stars in Scorpio ever? Everybody speaks about Scorpio, but not the fixed stars. So this is some learning for me to do, and it's in my 9th house. So I don't speak about what I don't know. I can speak about Antares, which is the opposition of Aldebaran, and Antares in tropical Sagittarius. Antares, well, I look at Aldebaran as winning the battle, and at Antares as winning the war. So whenever you're doing an Aldebaran thing, know that exactly the opponent, right, 180 from you is at the Antares. And that's important to remember. Sometimes it's important to have a small win. That even if you're not the winner of the Grand War, you still have something that is for you, that is to keep. And then you would do Aldebaran. Okay, you would have your land, your house, your whatnot. So you didn't win the war, but you still have your land, you still have your house, you still have, the things. However, there are times where you won the battle, but the fact that you didn't win the war is significant. The fact that you, and those are the times where you're heading for an experience. Antares is about the grand win. Mercury is about the small win. And sometimes the small wins are important. Like for example, if a person is divorcing an unhealthy relationship, they might give up a lot of the wealth that they were entitled to, but they have this small win that they kept, I don't know, their own house or their own bank account or something like that. It's like they didn't win the fight, but they got left with something to keep for them. And they got their lives. And so they have this material thing or this material item of luxury or something that they want, that's theirs. Okay? Or maybe their partner dumped them, but their win was that, they got the car or something like that. It's like they didn't win it's not like the big win, but hey, they got this cool car, luxurious car. And Antares is the grand picture. It's a very winning planet. A fixed star. Now, the nature of it leads me to the fact that that can be a conscious, the win on the consciousness or something like that, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is our higher mind, our philosophy of life, our traveling, and so on and so forth. So it is international, it is teaching higher philosophy, it is religious or faithful, or so on and so on and so forth. And it can be for Antares, it can be that the nature of Jupiter is what allows the grand win, but also it is that if you think about the bigger things in life, it's usually beyond winning a battle. It's the life that you get to live, it's the person that you get to be. And this is how the interesting and intricate connection between the win of Antares and the life and meaning and purpose of Jupiter. Because it's not, if you learn, for example, martial arts like Eastern, it is not about winning those fights. Like, you learn how to win those fights, but it's not about winning those fights in as much as the person that you become when you cultivate the philosophy and the soul experience of being and living the arts. That's Antares. Okay, well, Aldebaran might want to see, big bloody fights and be the big winner, and but like if I take a look at, let's say, the marshals, then I would say Aldebaran would be the winner in the MMA, and Harris would be the teacher that not many people know about, but those who do are very lucky, because that person might not be well known, but they do live, or they might be well known, but they do live in a certain experience that is of one that truly cultivated the arts. Um, so, so that's for the tropical. Okay, it is a win, but it is a win where you have where you're not attached to the win. And in Aldebaran, you're very much attached. Okay, it's like, I got this. This is mine. And in Antares, it's the win that you get when you're not attached to winning, in a way. And now let's go. So sidereally, of course, this would be in Scorpio. And now it becomes even more obvious, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, but this is the Mars who is very strategic, fixed water. What is fixed water? What do we know about standing water? Now, of course, Scorpio is, the quiet water runs deep. It's true. And it can be the well, and the well is the well of insight, of info. The dark waters that are almost like the scrying, those black mirrors that you look into, because if you think about dark water in the well, it's like a scrying mirror, basically. What else do we know about standing water? What do we want? What is good feng shui with liquids? Streaming. Okay, they need to stream. They can't be standing. You don't want standing water in your house. You need flow. And standing water, fixed water, on the one hand, it allows for scrying as being a mirror. It's the well of wisdom. However, it's also tremendous stagnation. If you don't interact with water, if you don't bring water from the well, if you don't observe the water, because scrying, what it does, you place your perspective on the waters, and so there is a change. You're interacting with the waters, and then shapes come up and things, transform. So you're interacting with something, otherwise it's stagnant. You're interacting with the psyche of the water. um, I'm not going to get into it. Does it change the water physically or not? But either you're creating a certain dynamic on the psyche using the water element, or in the physical, you're drawing water from the well. And so you're drawing water from the well, and then the rain comes, and then it goes into the well. So you have a fixed source of water that you can rely on. And Antares, we talked about the Antares wind as like wind in the warren that also relates to the non-attachment pattern. Scorpio is about actually cultivating non-attachment. I know. I know. It's like saying that the 12th house is a spiritual place, like the spiritual experiences of, it's true. It goes through being tremendously attached to something. Okay, the well is the source of water of the village. And so the experiences, the survivalistic experience, that people go through with the archetypes of Scorpio are like being born anew. It's not easy. And Antares is pretty much the win that you get when cultivating that non-attachment to the win. So Scorpio is tremendously strategic, but that's how can you be strategic and practice non-attachment as well? Also, how can you be strategic and practice adaptability, which is something that is very difficult for any fixed sign? So you can adapt yourself. So the fixed Scorpio, they can adapt themselves to a certain strategy. Like they get to know a person for a long time, and then they can adapt the strategy. But what if the person changes, and the strategy that's no longer valid? And until they adapt themselves to the next strategy, so they're very good to win on the long run. But if the win, the actual genuine win of a Scorpio comes from this practice of non-attachment, this practice of even stoicism, because it is survivalistic. And then Antares is that tremendous win that you gain, that you also take with, not with a grain of salt, but from a place that you're able to contain it without letting it overwhelm you. I can think, well, I have this in the 9th house, Sidereal. No, that would confuse everything. Have it in the 10th house. Yeah, I have it in the 8th house, Sidereally. No, it's not something that I want to get into. So, Antares. Tropically Capricorn. Vega. And I actually recently learned about Vega, and I learned that this is the fixed star of the professor and the teacher. So tropically, with Capricorn being ruled by Saturn and the top of the hierarchy, the professor and the teacher. Now, Vega is about the professor and the teacher that has knowledge to bring. So it's basically rising up to the fame or being that professor because you actually have something to give, and therefore it is there in a way that it brings out the best qualities that you could get from Capricorn is the person that rises to the top of the hierarchy rightfully, because they do possess knowledge, because they do possess wisdom, because they do have something to give, because it is a person that we want to learn from. And so these people can be professors, can be teachers. Okay. Of course, it is a sort of fixing thing, making sure, what did we have when Saturn reached around this point in Capricorn? It was amidst also a Me Too phase. And that was like, okay, let's look at all these people, all these professors, especially in academia. Okay, not just as performers, also in the industry of entertainment, but also all these professors, all these people higher up the rank. Are they truly teaching? Are they truly delivering knowledge that is good? Are they truly ethically sourcing? Are they truly a person that you want to see as a role model, that you want to learn from them? Okay? Because the dark side of Capricorn is just to climb up the ladder, and Mars exalts there without asking yourself, is this the right thing to do? How is this structure? That is what we will ask in Aquarius with the modern ruler of Uranus. And I do practice modern rulers. I know it's controversial, but I do. Now, sidereally, that would obviously be in Sagittarius. So let's just check it. Yeah, so sidereally, that would be 21 degrees Sagittarius, according to Sidereal Lahiri. And there it changed a bit of the color, but it's the same essence, because Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is also the guru, the teacher, the philosopher, the traveler, the researcher. And Vega is about making sure that this guru is indeed someone that you want to learn from. That this person is actually a teacher and the guru that has something of value to give. So it is in a way restrictive to the expansive nature of and the incestual nature of Jupiter. Zeus was also of an energy that not necessarily adhered to sexual boundaries, huh? That was a part of the myth of Zeus. So make sure that our guru, our inspiration, our spiritual teacher, our seeker of freedom does not take over the freedom of other beings on the road. Now, I'm not sure if Vega is competent in doing that. Just to point that Vega is about a person who is a professor, who is a teacher, who is a guru, who genuinely has something to give. So again, I'm not saying that it necessarily will ensure that that person does not cross anybody's boundaries. But this is something that both reflects of the nature of Saturn when it's higher up the rank, like the professor degree, and Jupiter in the sense of the thinker, the philosopher, the guru. That seeks knowledge, that indulges in knowledge. And then when you indulge in knowledge and you expand yourself, you also want to make sure that this knowledge is true. And that can be another facet of this interaction, perhaps a more relevant one. Back to tropical. And it's not written here, but of course we have at the I think it's 26th or 24th degree of um, tropical Aquarius. We have Deneb Algedi. That's the blue eye, the all-seeing eye. And Deneb Algedi is of the nature of Saturn and Jupiter, if I'm not mistaken. And what Deneb Algedi does is, what I understand from it, because I've actually had an experience with it, is equity in allocation of resources. So Deneb Algedi, the way I see it, will not necessarily protect your property if there is an issue of wealth redistribution that needs to take place. Also, Deneb Algedi might even protect your property when you are in a situation where you actually need to steal. It might even instruct you on where it is the most fair to steal. Like, this is something I haven't heard people talking about, but in situations where people did not have food and did not want to commit a crime and did not want to be subjected to human trafficking, there, even if you, let's say, have to steal food, there's a difference between stealing from this supermarket, from that supermarket, of course not from, an actual person, unless this actual person is like maybe very rich and doesn't need the money. So channeling with Deneb Algedi might even, it's not that it protects the thieves, it's just that it minimizes the theft. It minimizes the level of offense that you have to make to get yours in a situation of wealth redistribution. And it also makes sure that if there is another person that cannot have the physical or mental ability to steal for their life, then you will also share the wealth with them. Like, it will not necessarily stay yours. It might not keep you, like if you stole something, it might not, like Deneb Algedi might ensure that if it doesn't need to be with you, it will not be with you. But if something needs to be yours, it can guide you how to do that in the most practical way. That's something I haven't heard anybody talking about with Deneb Algedi, and I think it is important to know because people might be afraid to use it. They might be afraid to use it because sometimes they are in a situation that's life or death or life risking and so on and so forth. So like, oh, Deneb Algedi will get them exposed, will get them this, will get them that. If it will get you exposed, it's only so that you can receive help. So Deneb Algedi is basically, but Deneb Algedi is also about ensuring your creative rights to something. Okay? And it's literally like the good cop. If you want to protect your property or protect the good work that you do, then Algadi will force you to work ethically, but then it will keep what you have. And so this is very much the manifestation of the rules within hierarchy. Hierarchy is not disorder. I'm sorry, the rules within anarchy. Anarchy is not disorder. In the word of Avi Segal, my professor for international relations, anarchy is not disorder. Okay, he said anarchy is not chaos, but chaos is like big trigger word, a word that was used in relevance before we actually looked into chaos theory. Because chaos has a lot of order within it. Okay. Anyway, Aquarius is the sign of anarchy. It's what happens when you go out of the structure. Yeah, let's say you've graduated university, you became a researcher, you became a professor, and then you go to a new place where nobody knows who you are and it doesn't matter. And now, what do you retain? And also, what do you learn? from this situation. Thinking about, I think one of the videos that Beyonce did was she looked, I think, on YouTube to try to find moves. That's the story that she told, um, and then she met this group. I think it was for Who Runs the World, and they did this dance, and she went all the way to meet them, and they did not know who she was. They were very excited about getting picked up, and they saw this obviously a big production, but they had no idea who Beyonce is, and she was all in tears. You saw in the video she remembered her childhood when she was working so hard like them, and so on and so forth. It was a very emotional moment, and a very beautiful moment when one of the people who is most famous worldwide comes into a situation where nobody knows who is Beyonce. We don't know, but hey, we got picked for a dance move, and why not? We teach her this dance move, and she got to be the student of these people because they had to teach her the choreography. So um, think about, after you reach the top of the mountain, you go into a place where nobody knows who you are, and the vibrancy of this experience. How much do you get to keep of everything you've earned? And this is where Deneb Algadi can come, because what you get to keep is your integrity. What you get to keep is your curiosity. What you get to keep is your sense of human connection. What you get to keep is to relate with the common person. And then you have a beautiful experience. What you don't get to keep is your ego. What you don't get to keep is when Saturn is still going through my 12th house. Then I had places like when I did first degree academia, almost second degree, and then I did apprenticeship and so on and so forth. But as a part of my activism, I was writing to certain workplaces, and I told them that no, post me too. How can you ask for recommendations? How can you ask for CV if that mentions the previous workplaces when a person was hurt? And so they had no idea who am I, what degrees I have or don't have, what experience I have at hotel. All they knew is that there's this person who is talking about me too, and what the fuck do they want from us? And the entire construct of the passage of Pluto in Capricorn, the whole things, the whole degree, the whole academic achievements that I had were not relevant. I did not get to keep the status. What I did get to keep is the point, the actual changes that I want to make to the structure, the actual point that I want to make. The actual fact that I'm speaking with people that have zero idea who I am, and I'm making a point, and you have to check this point about this point. You don't know who I am, you don't know my experience, you don't know my name, you don't know my achievements, you don't know anything about me except that I am a part of the people that went through so and so. And so I require of you to change the structure to such that my income will not depend on offenders. Now you prove to me that your job is safe for me to go to. If not, I steal. Huh? Hopefully I won't have to steal, right? But this was completely like taking something that you've reached the pinnacle of something. And then poof, you're just in anarchy. Deneb Algadi is literally, it's not just, your material possessions or this, it's also that. It is also that, okay? But it is also what you get to keep from going tropically from Capricorn to Aquarius. And then what you get to keep in Deneb Algadi in tropically is a lot of what you get to keep, or what is being taken away is like, okay, that is no longer needed, and that is the new way of getting along in the world. And also, then Algedy has the power to bring you back things that perhaps in the beginning of the journey were lost. It has the power to do so. But it wants to make sure that you are being ethical. Anyway, this is, and I think Sidereally it would still be in Aquarius. Oh, I don't have the Algedy here. Yeah. Well, well, I think it would still be in the beginning of Aquarius, but if in case it somehow ends in Capricorn, we obviously understand what happens when you reach Deneb Algedy and you went to the top of the mountains and there you have Deneb Algedy that tells you, okay, this is what you get to keep with you, this is what you don't get to take with you as you're going onto this new journey in that anarchic place where it's like you could be a professor and nobody knows you. You could be Beyonce and nobody knows you. What do you get to keep? So, and what experience would you have? What actually is substantial to that? Yes. So, well, Makmak, I don't know too much about Makmak. I'd like Pisces, formal out. So tropical Pisces formal out. So formal out is the eloquence that come with psychic perception. It's not the eloquence of Spica. It's actually it can also be the eloquence of Flander actually, because the watery nature, the viral nature of Pisces. But it's basically going into the depth of the sea, gaining wisdom that is beyond words, and being eloquent more in art, in poetry, rather than in a manifest. So of course it is of the nature of Pisces. It it summarizes what you can get out of Pisces, I think, because formal out is when you're doing Pisces at your best, then you're being eloquent in a way that is nonverbal, even when you use words. It's the way beyond the words. It's the energy in the words. It's the form beyond the form. And so, of course, that is the wisdom of Pisces. It is also the wisdom of the discernment beyond frequency and beyond the dissecting things. The discernment of liquid, of that which is nonverbal. So the word discernment here is paradoxical, even. But it doesn't even feel like a paradox because the two oppositions merge into something that is one. And get to preserve a lot of their essence too. So it's not exactly a melting pot, but it's basically the power of Pisces, which of course ideally would be in Aquarius. And so the power of that which is beyond the words, the power of liquid intelligence as an antidote to the logical, airy intelligence of Aquarius. Um, so they're having FOMO how that Sidereal Aquarius is forcing you to think, what if you would not be able to arrange your thoughts correctly? What if you had to be intelligent and you had to be, what if your science had to depict the water? How would you depict it other than poetry? The power of images to convey a scientific observation about the world, the power of intuition to be scientific. And with that, I'll end. Of course, these connections between the fixed stars and the zodiac stars is is a connection between elements. And like, Venus is ruling Taurus, but if Venus is in Leo, then yes, it activates Taurus, but it's in Leo, like it's not in Taurus. Like, don't expect it to act like Venus in Taurus. Same, if a planet is in Taurus, don't expect it to act like Algol. Okay, it's just that that this is the zone of the zodiac sign, and then in that zone of that zodiac sign, you have that planet. So that was me. Shirley Talishir on Twitter, Shirley Ambot on Instagram. I do readings. You can contact me. I will not contact you for a reading, beloved. Um, I might call you beloved, but I will not contact you for a reading. And yeah, you can subscribe, like, whatever, if you find this to your liking and want more of that. You know where the bell is. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.